This week has genuinely been one of the craziest weeks as a cat mum, and I'm really excited to give you a Toothless update and also to share with you the backstory of how Toothless came into my life and where we're at now and moving forwards, what our plans are as van lifers. There are quite a few things that I need to tell you about Toothless today, and a lot of them are shocking. Get your tea ready because tea is piping hot today. And honestly, I thought that I was the person who knew everything about my cat, although he is kind of a rescue, which I will get onto in a minute. I really thought that I knew everything there is to know about this cat, and going to the vet changed everything for me. And I don't really know how it's possible, but I love him even more after finding out so much about him recently. Welcome back to the Wishing Pod. The setup's a little bit different today, and I'm going to get into that very shortly. We're not in a field, and we are not in the van, but today is all about my cat, Toothless, who has been kind of my little mascot on this channel for a while, but I've never actually dedicated a full video to him. And today is the day because, wow, what a week we have had. So today I'm going to be sharing his full story, his past, present and future, everything that I know to be true about my little baby. I've got a huge vet update. I'm going to talk a little bit about where we're at right now and what our plans for the future are. His origin story, let's go. The thing is, I never actually adopted Toothless. Toothless is one of those classic stories of the cat finding their owner. Toothless kind of adopted me. His story starts long before I even bought my van. I have known Toothless for about 7 years now. The last year that I've been back in England, our bond has really grown. We did have a really good relationship last time I lived in the UK before I went to Japan, but because I was aware that I might be leaving the country, I didn't want to break each other's hearts, you know, like getting really close. But he'd still stay in my bed and he'd still like come to me for cuddles and stuff like that, but it was nowhere near as deep as our relationship now. 7 years ago, this cat just turned up one day, this little black cat. He was quite young and he was feral. Bear in mind where my dad works, at his carpentry place, it's like the middle of nowhere. Like there is nowhere for a cat to come from. There is a rescue centre, and I thought maybe he might have escaped from there, but even then, like, I think that's quite unlikely. And so he just turned up, seemingly out of nowhere, and my dad bought him some biscuits, and this little cat was so feral, like he was just hissing and really like unsocialised, very scared. Probably had walked miles to find the farm. And so Dad started feeding him, and slowly he started getting used to kind of farm life and just kind of hanging around, and he just spent his days sleeping, catching mice, which is one of his favourite things to do, and being fed biscuits. When I first met Toothless, he wasn't very interested in me. He wasn't very interested in me. I really tried to befriend him because I'm a big animal lover, but he just wasn't really phased, and that's okay. Like I'm not ever gonna force it. But I never in a million years imagined us to be as close as we are right now, and I think this is why I love cats so much. And I'm sure, I mean, I've heard this so many times, but I do believe it to be true that cats' trust is earned, and I really appreciate that. The process of getting to know Toothless and earning his trust has just been so beautiful, and I couldn't be happier. Nobody really knew where he came from, and he slowly started becoming part of the farm where my dad works and does his carpentry, and it's a very noisy place, you know, but Toothless just wanted to be there, weirdly enough. And he can sleep through like chainsaws and the mill going, like he is crazy. and he just isn't fazed by the noise at all. And yeah, and then I went off on my travels. So I had already arranged that I wanted to move abroad, and the opportunity to move to Japan came up, and so I went and had my adventure for years. Like I did have a couple of years in Manchester, breaking up my time in Japan, and I did come and stay at the farm a few times, and so I did get to see Toothless quite a lot during that time, and we did become closer. And I think he realised that I'm not as go as everyone else at the farm. Like I really value my slow living, my slow life, which is not the life of a carpentry workshop. I think he kind of realised that I'm a much more slow moving, calm presence, and I think he felt drawn to that. And so we ended up becoming quite good friends from there. He'd like come sleep on my bed and stuff like that. It was lovely, and I remember like getting to a point where he'd allow me to, like he'd roll on his back and want tummy cuddles, and for me that was just so beautiful because I'd never seen him do that with anyone before. And to this day I don't really see him do it that much unless he really trusts a person. So for me that felt like a very proud moment. But yeah, before I realised it, he had chosen me, and it was just such a beautiful feeling to feel chosen by a cat who was basically feral when he first arrived. So that was amazing. Let's talk a little bit about why I took Toothless to the vet recently, because this was a very quick decision. Basically, we've had some mad heat in England right now, and actually today I believe is one of the hotter days, which is kind of why we're in this setup right now. I'll get onto that in a minute. But I took Toothless to the vet because after the heat wave, his hair started standing on end a little bit, and he didn't want his head touched. And I wondered if he had caught a little bit of sunstroke, because you've got to remember he's jet black and he is part feral. Like, you cannot tell this cat what to do. And to be honest, I didn't really see him for a little bit. He just wanders around in fields most of the time. If he's not wandering around in fields, he is sleeping. So he has so many like little hiding spots, little cubbies that he enjoys. All of these factors led up to one evening. I started seeing his hair standing up on end a little bit. Didn't like his head touched. I talked to my family, and they were just kind of like, oh, he's probably fine, like he's just got a bit of sunstroke. But he also wasn't as cuddly, and my Toothless is so cuddly with me, and that is something that I love about him. And I just, you know, I know him really well, and I felt like there was something very off here, that if you were on the outside, if you didn't know Toothless very well, you maybe wouldn't have noticed, but I noticed. You know, I'm his mummy, I know these things. He had a coughing fit, and I was really worried about this. He does cough sometimes, and it's usually like one of those like retchy like hairball things, so I'm not worried about that. But this was like a smoker's cough. This was disgusting. I was quite worried about him, and so I was just kind of like trying to help him get it out at the time, but it really worried me. And so I called up the vet, and they got me in that morning, and it was such a crazy morning, because Toothless had come in for his breakfast, and then I had to get him in a carry case. I couldn't find him for about 40 minutes. I was walking around this workshop for about 40 minutes, like shouting his name. And then I finally came back to my camper van, and then he just popped out. I was like, oh, for God's sake. So anyway, I tricked him into coming into my van, and I managed to get him into the carry box, and he was really scared. He really didn't like it. And he was just like clawing at the sides and meowing and really scared, and I felt really bad. But he did settle down very quickly, I think because I was with him the whole time, and I just kept my hand on the front of it just to let him know that I'm here, and I just kept talking to him very gently, and he calmed down pretty fast and he went to sleep. We went to the vets because I decided it's not worth waiting and risking it. I'd rather go to the vets and be told that I'm wrong and that he's fine than wait and then he gets worse. When we got to the vets, he was so well behaved. I was really worried about him because he'd never been in a vet before, but the two ladies, the two veterinary nurses were really sweet. They were very gentle with him. The vet said something that genuinely stopped me in my tracks. So you may have noticed that I have been calling Toothless a he this whole video, and previously I have always referred to Toothless as a she. Turns out I had that wrong. Toothless is not my little princess. He is my little prince. Yeah, it turns out he's a boy cat, which in hindsight makes so much sense because he's huge. He's also quite territorial, and anyway, there were signs that I thought like, okay, maybe I should have known that he was a guy, but I don't know. You know, in my eyes, he's still a girly pop. He's still one of the girls. I'm a boy mum, which makes me so happy. I never thought I would be a boy mum. I never thought that this day would come, but I am so proud of my little boy, my little baby Mr. Toothless. So that was a shocker, and so when the nurses told me that, I was just crying because I didn't know how to react. I was like, what? I was shook. I was shook with you guys. So that was the first bit of big news. So they checked him for a chip and he had one. So he wasn't a stray when he came to us. He actually had a family before us. His chip was still registered to his previous home. By law, the veterinary nurses had to call up the previous home. And it was a very difficult thing when we got them on the phone. Initially, they wanted him back. I listened on the phone to this lady who had previously had Toothless, and what had happened was, without going into too much detail, that she had to give him up. And I don't know what that means, but she said that she'd like to have him back and it would make her son really happy. And by this point, I'm already in pieces because I found out that he's a boy and that he's got a few health conditions, which I will get onto in a minute, and that he's chipped and that he's registered to someone else. And bear in mind, I've had him in my life for 7 years and we are very bonded. So that was a very difficult thing for me to go through, and to hear that they wanted him back. Anyway, when it was my turn to speak on the phone, I was just really honest. I just said, Toothless and I are really bonded. He comes home to me every day. He has a really free life where he's in fields every day. He's living his best cat life. And then he comes home to me every night and he chooses to be with me. And I said, like, he's my little baby. It would break my heart if I had to give him up. The previous owners changed their mind, basically. They said, he sounds like he's really happy, and as long as he's happy, then that's fine. And they said that I could keep him. And so I just went from like, all of my emotions were just like this for like 5 minutes. And I was crying again, and I was like, thank you so much. All the nurses were crying as well. We were all crying. But ultimately, I get to keep Toothless forever now. Toothless is officially my cat, and I'm getting emotional thinking about it. But I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that he is in my life and that I get to keep him for the entirety of his life. I honestly thought that I would lose Toothless in that minute. I was convinced that he was gone and that I was going to be without him. But actually, that's not how it turned out at all. On top of that, the nurses told me he has a slight heart murmur, which is very common in cats. They said it's not something that I need to look into immediately, but it's just something to be aware of. They also said that he might have some kind of respiratory issue or asthma. So they put him on some antibiotic and he's got to take it for 7 days, and then he's got to halve his dose after that. We're going to see how he gets along with the pills, and since he's been here, he has not coughed. He sneezed a couple of times, but he's been in very good health. So I wonder if it was maybe just a reaction to the dust at the farm, and maybe he has a little bit of asthma from that. It's been about half a week since Toothless went to the vet, and they advised for me to keep a close eye on him by keeping him indoors for a week. And I was shit scared. I was nervous about this because this little baby has never been inside. From my knowledge, he must have with his previous owners, but from my knowledge, he's like an outdoor cat. Like, he lives with me in my van and then he's outdoors. And I was like, is he gonna hate being trapped in a house? But anyway, didn't have a choice. I was like, I would rather him be in a house. And also, there's a mad heat wave coming up, so I was already planning on bringing him inside a house during the heat wave, but I wasn't expecting him to be here for a full week while he recovers and takes his medication. But so far he's done a great job. The first night did not go exactly to plan. It turns out that teaching a 9-year-old cat how to live indoors is interesting, and that's the other thing I didn't mention as well. Like, I now have his date of birth, so his birthday is on the 22nd of April and he was born in 2017, making him a 9-year-old cat. So he's a big boy. He's a middle-aged man, actually, which is much older than I thought he was. I thought he was probably about 7 or 8, but he's actually 9, so that's crazy. But all of these factors, just getting to know him more, just makes me love him more, which I didn't even realise was possible, but here we are. The first night in a house. Let's just say there were a few accidents. We kept one room free, which was going to be his room, and in there was his litter tray. By the way, he's not used a litter tray in years because he usually just goes outside. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to litter train this cat as well. That was an interesting thing. He had his safe room where he had like some covers to hide under and his toys and some treats, stuff like that. The thing is, because Toothless has never been confined before, I feel like the typical rules that you would have when getting a cat used to a new space, they apply differently to Toothless. He was in this very small room, which was very nice and it would have been fine, but because he's not used to being confined so much, I could just tell he was getting really stressed out by it. And so I was like, I don't want this. I want him to feel comfortable, like he's clearly curious about where he is. And so we opened that door to the little room so that he would have access to the corridor and the bedroom. And he was instantly really drawn to the bedroom. And I think that's probably because that's where I was sleeping. And so by the evening, and me kind of realising, oh, he likes the bedroom, he made himself very comfortable under the bed. He's got like a little spot now that he loves. And I just kept all of his stuff in there because I thought he knows where that is. However, what I didn't anticipate was him not actually going into that room again. I think he didn't really like the corridor leading between the two rooms, and so he decided to stay in the bedroom all night, which meant that he ended up pissing on some clothes that were on the floor. And so woke up the next morning to a very soggy pile of things. And I was like, oh, okay, we need to work on this. So I went to Tesco's, I bought some like pet stain cleaning odor remover stuff to avoid that happening. Just got everything off the floor, rugs, anything soft, just clean it up. I really got down to business with this whole like domesticating Toothless thing. I got his litter tray, and I tried to make it even more like how it would have been like in the outdoors. At that moment it just had some wood chip and some sawdust because he has a habit of pooing in the sawdust. And so I thought, okay, well, that's quite familiar. But I just added a layer of garden soil on top of that, and then that night he pooped. And he pooped somewhat in the toilet, and then he pooped a little bit outside of the toilet as well. But to me that was a big success because he recognised this is the toilet area. So that was great. It's been new for me as well because I haven't had to deal with litter trays for cats and I really wasn't expecting, like, firstly, like, how smelly they are, and secondly, like, they're actually quite difficult to clean. So anyway, I'm working on that. Anyway, I'm very glad to say that Toothless is now using his toilet, and he is very confident using his toilet. He even has a little cardboard box over his toilet, so he has a nice bit of privacy when he goes. Yeah, I couldn't be more proud of my little boy for learning how to use the toilet in literally like 2 days. You know what they say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but apparently you can teach an old cat new tricks. This next section is called the medication saga. Giving Toothless his medication has been a journey. It turns out that cats are actually very smart and they can sniff out if you put medication in food, and he figured out my tricks almost instantly because he wasn't going to eat the tablet by himself. I tried mixing it into butter and he ate it the first time, and then the second time he was like, no. I tried mixing it into food. He was like, I couldn't really tell how much of the pill he'd eaten. And so I managed to work out that if first thing in the morning, before I give him any food, he has his crushed up pill and a bit of gravy and meat on a tiny teaspoon, and he just like eats it instantly because I think he's hungry. So he just like waffles it down, and then success. And then he gets the rest of his food. Sorry that I keep touching my nose, by the way, it's really itchy. I think I'm getting hay fever from this flower. I don't have my usual plastic cherry blossoms at the moment because obviously I'm staying somewhere else. It was quite a rush getting here because literally went to the vet, had him in my van, and he was like confined. He was really unhappy. And I was like, I can't let you out right now. And he was like scratching up my curtains. I was like, oh my God, this is not good. So I made a few calls and just got him here as quickly as possible, which meant I forgot loads of my stuff. But we're here and we're making this do, and I got gifted some beautiful flowers the other day. So I thought I would use them in my video instead. Where are we now? Let's fast forward to today. Honestly, I couldn't be happier with him and how resilient and adaptable he's been throughout this whole thing. Seeing him grow so much in just a week has made me feel that there's so much hope for him, and it's so worth everything. He just proves to me all the time what an amazing character he is, and I couldn't be more proud to be his mummy. He's at a point now where he's wandering around the house. He's got a couple of little safe spaces because he's quite sleepy during the day, hence he's not here with me right now. He's just in a little cubby just snoozing away, and he is coming out at night and having some food and getting a little bit of zoomies and using the toilet, and yeah, he's just having a great time. He's got his favourite toys here as well. He was playing with his favourite star, which is super gammy because he's had it for like ages. I don't think he will ever part with that star until it's absolutely fucked. So it just feels very normal. Things feel very normal here, and that's what I was hoping for him to just kind of settle into this kind of living, even though it's only for a week. But yeah, house life suits him. He seems very happy in a house. And I was worried that he would really be craving the outdoors and the fields, and I'm really excited to get him back in the fields. But I'm also really glad that he is so happy just pottering around, enjoying this kind of super clean living. So let's talk about the future of Toothless. So what's next for him? This is when things get really exciting. I've got a dream, and I have a feeling that Toothless is gonna love it. I have actually been collar training Toothless for a few months, in a sense just getting him used to wearing a collar in hopes that I will be able to attach a lead to it in the future. He only wears it when he's in my van, just because I don't want him getting caught on anything while he's wandering around in the wood piles and the fields. But when he's in my van, he usually wears a collar, and he's very happy. I was nervous that he wouldn't take to it very well, but he seems pretty unfazed by it, which I think is the best reaction. Currently we're at a point where he just needs to get through this next cycle, finishing off his medication, let's get through the heat wave, and when all of this is past, then we're going to go back to the van and we're going to get him settled in as normal. The next step from here is to get him even more used to van life, but also I want him to start seeing the van as more than just where he sleeps. Like, I'm going to take the litter tray back, and the design that I've made for my van actually incorporates a lot of very cat-friendly things, which you will see later when the renovations happen. But yeah, so he'll have the litter place. We're also installing a cat flap very shortly, so he can come and go as he pleases even when I'm not at the van, and I think that would be a really good thing for him, because at the moment he has to wait for me all the time and I will often be out for like a full day. And so I think this would be a really good next step for him to be able to associate the van with home. After that, we're going to see how he gets on, and maybe we're going to try some lead training that might even eventually become harness training, start traveling around in the van with him, like just turning the engine on and off when he's in there. He doesn't really seem super startled by vehicles. I want to move slowly with him. He's an old man, you know, he's a very gentle little thing. And I've noticed that Toothless has a certain pacing for things, and as long as I respect that, he's very adaptable. That's what I've found, that the more that you try and force things, and I think this is the same with everything, like the more you try and force things with him, the more resistance he feels and the more he won't want it. But if you do things at his pace and you respect him, then he's very open. You know, he's very open to the collar. He was very open to coming here and being in a house, and he's adapted amazingly, and it's given me a lot of hope. The future is a kind of question mark right now, but at least I know that I have him forever and that he is officially my little boy. I think the thing that's most important with all of this is that he decides the pace. You can't rush these things, and especially with him, he's so old and he's a bit of a delicate flower, but he's also shown himself to be very resilient as long as it's at his own pace. And again, this goes for all beings and people, that you've just got to have a respect and remember that they have their own autonomy and they have their own mind, and as long as you are being gentle, then it should be fine. Toothless has taught me so much from this experience, and if there's anything that I've learned from Toothless over the last couple of weeks, is that he is resilient as fuck. He is so strong, even though he's so gentle and so cute. Like, he has been through mad change, especially this last week, like going to the vets for the first time, being in a house for the first time, being litter trained, being in a completely new environment, and he doesn't know what's going on, but he trusts me, and that has been such a pivotal thing, realizing that even though he's going through this chaos, like if I'm there, then he is much calmer about it, and it's just proven to me like what a strong bond we have, and that is more important than anything, that we just stay together and that we're like a little unit. It's crazy because he's so old, like he's 9 years old, he's lived a very full life, but yet he's still very open to change, and he's still very peaceful and very chill about the whole thing. When he, you know, really he might, you know, any other cat might not be like that. I honestly thought that this whole experience was going to be super traumatizing, because he's like half feral and he's just going to like hate being inside, he's going to be hissing constantly, hiding, but he's just like super chill. Like, he's just proven me wrong time and time again, and I'm so glad that he's proven me wrong.
I just want to say thank you so much for watching and listening to Toothless's story. I thought it was about time to give Toothless a proper introduction on this channel, since he is such a massive part of my life, and he is constantly around on my channel when I'm doing renovations, when I'm just chilling out. I'm doing content on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts, and I have a Patreon which has been newly set up. And particularly, I am doing Toothless updates on Patreon.
If you join my Matcha Club, this is where you'll get photo dumps from my van life and daily moments, music behind the scenes snippets like original demos, photo shoot extras, cat content of course, and short diary style reflections. If you join my Forest Fairy Club, which is the higher tier, you'll get monthly diary entries, creative process updates, early access to YouTube videos when it's available, oracle card pulls and intuitive messages, what I'm currently reading and thinking about, music I'm listening to, song recommendations, writing inspiration, occasional voice notes and sit-down updates. It's basically like the pages of my diary, but online. And if you join my Patreon, you will get a secret look into my world that I don't share with the rest of the internet. So please head over to Patreon if you're interested in that. I'm a new channel and I'm still trying to find my crowd.
If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and let me know if you have a cat or an animal and share your stories about them in the comments. I would love to hear that because I am a massive animal girly. Like, if I find out someone has a pet, I'm like, where are the pictures? Show me right now. And I'm like the first one at a function. I'm like the girl in the corner that's like stroking the dog at a party. Like, that's me. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a beautiful day.